breaking news tonight as Hollywood's biggest stars vote to officially strike at midnight, totally shutting down the movie and TV business. The cast of one huge summer blockbuster already walking off a red carpet rather, to go make picket signs. It comes as the head of Disney says now is not the right time for actors to demand more money. We'll take you live to LA with these latest developments, what's at stake, and what you should know about the shows you love. Plus, new disturbing video of a sheriff's deputy appearing to punch a mother in the face as she held on to her 3-week-old baby, why the FBI is now getting involved. We're also live in Arizona, where it is dangerously hot, the very real risk millions of people are facing, even at night. Plus, in tonight's original, could you get hit with surprise fees when you book your next vacation? Why a new bill in Congress might let airlines hide their sticker prices. And a surgeon losing her medical license for live streaming her patients on the operating table. Oh, yes, we're going to hear from one of her former patients who says the damage has been done later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and as we're coming on the air tonight, millions of dollars and thousands of jobs are on the line with something we haven't seen since Spartacus was in theaters. Hollywood actors officially set to strike alongside the writers who are already on the picket lines, grinding to a halt TV, movies, script production, all of it. Already, even in just the last couple hours, we are seeing the stars of Oppenheimer walk off the red carpet at London's premiere. And late today, the leaders of the SAG-AFTRA union are laying out what exactly is at stake.
What happens here is important because what's happening to us is happening across all fields of labor. I am shocked by the way the people that we have been in business with are treating us.
Actor Fran Drescher there. The studios obviously see it differently, with the alliance of motion pictures and producers representing Disney and Netflix and NBC Universal, our parent company, and others, moments ago saying in a statement, it is certainly not the outcome we hoped for, and that this strike will lead to financial hardship for thousands. The head of Disney, in an exclusive interview with CNBC earlier today, saying this couldn't come at a worse time.
There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. And they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very disruptive.
So they're not being realistic?
No, they're not.
Keep in mind, we haven't seen a double strike, both SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild on strike at the same time, since Ronald Reagan was the head of the Actors Union. Dana Griffin is joining us now. Here we are now, something we haven't seen in 5-6 decades, Dana. Walk us through what's happening tonight, what's set to happen tomorrow, and in the days to come.
Well, Hallie, tonight they officially go on strike and they're going to mobilize. They've got the picket signs ready to go. And we could likely see some A-listers out on the picket lines outside of not only NBC Universal, Disney, Netflix, Warner Brothers, Discovery. It's something that we've been seeing for weeks when it comes to the writer's strike that has been going on now since May. And now with this strike happening with the actors, they will be joining. Some issues, though, that got us here, according to SAG-AFTRA, it really boils down to streaming residuals and AI protections. There was a really, I don't want to say heated, but Fran Drescher got really emotional about talking about what happened during those negotiations, and they felt like what the studios were offering was insulting for the work that they do. So they are taking a step back, they are taking a seat, and they did, bring up the fact that this is going to hurt not only the actors, the smaller people, but even the LA community, that help to make meals or help to, boost, the Hollywood helps boost up our local economy here. So millions of dollars could be lost in this, but the actors are standing firm. They want a fair deal so that everyone has what they deserve.
What is it? Can we even begin to speculate, Dana, on the timeline here, right? Because there are already some estimations tonight that this could cost something like $150 million a week, that if it goes into 2024, it could be, super problematic. Do we think it could last that long? Like, what are the chances here, given how negotiations have already broken down?
That's the big question. We've tried to analyze it ourselves, but remember, they've been negotiating now for more than 4 weeks. They actually initiated an almost 2-week extension to try to come to a deal. They even brought in a federal mediator yesterday to try to make an 11th-hour deal. That resulted in absolutely nothing. Fran Drescher, the president of SAG-AFTRA, said moments ago that they are willing to go back to the negotiating table as soon as tonight. But if it took this long, and it sounds like the AMPTP is really standing firm on what they are trying to accomplish here too. It could take weeks. You know, the riders have been on strike for some 11+ weeks now, so there really is there's really no timeline. And again, millions are being drained as we speak.
Any reaction yet from some of the big names involved? I mean, I want to remind people the actors union, it's not like it's just the extras. It's people like Meryl Streep. It's people like Jennifer Lawrence, like some of the biggest names in the business, you know, frankly, with big salaries to match, too.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing here, and the reason why you're seeing a lot of these A-listers come out and speak in support of this strike is because they're really doing it for the little stars, the people that you don't really see or hear from, because they are having a hard time paying rent, getting medical insurance. So they are doing this for them, because about 90% of the industry is actually unemployed on a day-to-day basis. It's those big stars that rake in millions of dollars that are hoping that standing in solidarity, like you said earlier, the cast of Oppenheimer walking out, this is to say, hey, we are in this with you. We're making the millions, and obviously they can afford to sit out of production for several weeks, but they're hoping that this sends a message to Hollywood that they want what's fair.
Dana Griffin live for us out there in the epicenter of it all out in L.A. Dana, thank you. Turning now to the unbearable, unforgiving heat almost 85 million of us are feeling right now. Triple-digit temperatures tonight, breaking dangerous records, even at night, by the way. We're in Phoenix. They're bracing for maybe their 4th night in a row above 90 degrees. Think about that, 90 at night. In Texas, there are concerns about the power grid. They may break another record today for people using electricity, running all those air conditioners. They just set a record 24 hours ago. And yes, it is summer, it is hot, but this extraordinary heat wave will not quit. El Paso and Miami have never seen this many days in a row above 100. Phoenix is closing in on 2 weeks. Vegas is forecast to hit its hottest temperature ever this weekend, 117 degrees. That is bananas. And while the West is baking, you've got the Northeast just swamped, bracing for another round of rain with nowhere for that water to go after devastating flash flooding this week. You can see some of the messy and difficult cleanup there. Meteorologist Bill Cairns is standing by with that, but I want to get to Marissa Parra, who's out in Phoenix, Arizona. It is a heat dome baking the desert. Huge issue where you are. Everybody's got to rely on their AC to stay safe.
Yeah, and Hallie, it is just unfathomable to think about what would happen if you didn't have that. Just right now, we've only been outside for maybe 20 minutes. It is about 111 degrees right now in Phoenix where we are, and we have the option of running back inside where it's nice and cool and climate controlled. But, you know, this study that was done by Environmental Science and Technology that was released in May took a look at different cities around the country. What would happen if there was a simultaneous blackout with a heat wave? And the results, if that were to happen in Phoenix in particular, would be catastrophic. A multi-day blackout with a heat wave with more than double the rate of heat-related deaths, and to require medical attention for more than 50% of the urban population in Phoenix. Again, that is according to that study that was done in May. And part of the reason is that Phoenix is a city that heavily relies on air conditioning throughout the city in a way that might be a little bit different for other cities that do rely on it, but just not the same way that Phoenix does, because we know how hot it gets here. Now, the good news is that Phoenix's electrical grid is good, but what environmentalists and what scientists are stressing right now is that as it continues to get hotter in places like Phoenix, and as we continue to see these seasons start earlier, like we're seeing here in Phoenix, it's putting more stress on the grid and putting more stress on these cities and making people wonder what would happen if that happened. But right now, people are focusing on trying to get people indoors, trying to get people to cooling shelters. In fact, we just got done with shadowing the Salvation Army here in Phoenix as they were going to various populations, people who don't have homes around here, bringing them water, making sure that they have a way to get to the cooling shelters if they need to do it. We know some of them say they've been at max capacity. And Hallie, something that's really interesting is I asked them, well, Phoenix always gets hot. What's different about this year? And they said this year, it's not only hotter, but it's starting weeks earlier than we had seen in previous years. And so we are having to extend our hours. We're having to extend our hours and open up during the weekends where we're normally closed. But the good news is we are seeing a lot of people trying to pitch in how they can. And in just a moment, you're going to hear from one of those volunteers who said, you know, she had a lot of excess bottles of water and thought about ways that she could help. Take a listen.
It's extremely hot out. There's so many people that live on the streets or elderly, and just really felt that we could give back.
So, Hallie, quickly here, you will probably notice this playground behind me completely empty. People are not going outdoors any more than they have to. And as Earth just saw its hottest June on record, Hallie, we're talking about how hot it is right now. The thing is, it is not getting any cooler. This weekend is supposed to be even hotter by several degrees.
It's bizarre to think about. Marissa Parr, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Bill Cairns is joining us now. So, Bill, we've talked about the heat. I know you're keeping an eye on that, and you're watching this threat of storms back in the east just after these major flash floods in Vermont, problems in New York as well.
Yeah, they only had 2 days for recovery, and now all of a sudden they're thinking to themselves, okay, let's see what this round brings. The ground is saturated for obvious reasons. Thankfully, the rivers have all come down. So the river levels have come down, but they can bounce back quicker when the ground is saturated. So it's not going to take the same amounts of rain as we had last time to get significant flooding. So this is obviously the line of storm we're tracking. This just already went through Syracuse, went through Utica, it's heading through Oneonta and Cooperstown, eventually through Albany, and then it'll set its sights later this evening on Vermont. And what I don't like to see is it looks like they're going to get 2 rounds of storm. There's one round that's ahead of the main line. So if they get 2 rounds of thunderstorms, obviously you're going to get more rainfall and your odds of flooding and flash flooding to begin to increase. So this is Interstate 89. This is Barrow here. Montpelier is located right where my finger is. That's where you saw all the signs, all the shots of the whole downtown flooded. We'd like to see the rain avoid them. And of course, there's that dam that's pretty much at capacity. So they don't want more water going into that because that'll spill over too. But you can see all these thunderstorms that are now over the Lake George region heading into Vermont. We'll keep an eye on that over the next couple hours. For the reasons I just mentioned, the National Weather Service has flood watches up that actually go from all of Rhode Island, northern half of Connecticut, Massachusetts, a good section of New Hampshire, and of course, all of Vermont. And the highest rainfall totals will be tonight, and then we'll get another round tomorrow. Tonight is in northern New England, near Vermont and New Hampshire. Tomorrow, we'll see some of that heavy rain around New York City. And then we could talk about airport delays and cancellations and just keep on this wild merry-go-round.
That is for sure. Bill Cairns, you'll be riding that merry-go-round for us. I know it. Thank you. Let's take you out west to Los Angeles, where tonight police are bracing for protests after releasing some disturbing body camera footage showing a sheriff punching a woman in the face during an arrest as she held her 3-week-old baby. We're going to show it to you, and we're going to warn you that what you're about to see, what you're about to hear, is going to be hard to watch.
You breaking the leg, bro! Hey, get this on recording! Y'all punch me, bro!
Okay, so that you know what you're seeing here, this is the top part. The top part there is where the deputy threw those 2 punches. As the woman screams, "You're breaking his legs," and begs not to be tased. Then you see deputies trying to take a baby out of the arms of a different woman who was in the car. And listen here.
Please, let me hold on to it for 2 more minutes, please. Please, 2 more minutes. No. 2 more minutes.
You can hear the baby crying. You can hear the mom screaming. The LA Sheriff's Department blurred and edited these videos before we got them. But the video is now getting the FBI's attention, with the spokesperson telling our team they're going to review this to see if these deputies violated federal law. Steve Patterson is joining us now from Los Angeles. And Steve, this is not a new incident. It actually happened about a year ago. This investigation has been going on since then. But the county sheriff says he only found out about this weekend, and we are just now getting a look at the video. What's going on?
Yeah, this happened almost exactly a year ago, Hallie, July 14th, 2022. It was a traffic stop. That car where the women are being pulled out of did not have its lights on. The deputies go to check the car. They smell a strong smell of alcohol. The driver is arrested for suspicion of driving under the influence and having a suspended license. In back, they find those women with their babies. No car seats. That's illegal in the state of California. They had a responsibility to pull that car over. That's unsafe. Here's the thing, though. The sheriff now wasn't the sheriff back then. And so now he is just learning, according to him, that all these incidents took place. We had a little graphic on screen kind of explaining what we know. And what we know now is that this case has been referred to the district attorney's office under possible criminal review. Here's what the sheriff, as he says, just learned about this a few days ago, says about the responsibility of justice. Listen to this.
I found the punching of the woman in these circumstances completely unacceptable.
And the sheriff says he found it so disturbing that the minute he learned of it, he went public. He didn't have to do that. These cases don't necessarily have to have this kind of light shined on them, but the sheriff said he thought it was part of his responsibility, Hallie.
Well, there's an obvious accountability question here, which is what became of the deputies in that video? Are they still on the job?
That's part of the reason why I think we're going to see protests, Hallie. We don't know. They don't have to release that information, and I don't think it's going to come from the sheriff's department unless this criminal investigation unveils a little bit more. So we don't know the name of the women, we don't know the names of the deputies, and that information not likely to come anytime soon, Hallie.
Steve Patterson live for us in LA, watching all of that. Steve, thanks. Our team is just now hearing from a source about a new investigation into plots by Republicans to overturn the results of the 2020 election based on former President Trump's lies about fraud. Here's the deal. I want to show you with the video first. The Arizona Republican Party posted this video, December 2020. It appears to show them approving their own fake electors, basically like a made-up group of voters that would pick Mr. Trump instead of President Biden, who legitimately won that state 3 years ago. They wanted to send that slate of fake electors to the National Archives. Well, now prosecutors for the Arizona officials there have spoken with multiple fake electors as part of this investigation, according to a source familiar with that. We're out to a lawyer for the woman who allegedly started this scheme. We haven't heard back, but to be clear, our team cannot confirm the former president himself is being investigated here. There are clear parallels, however, to another investigation into fake electors happening right now in a different county, Fulton County, Georgia. That's where we expect an announcement next month on whether or not Mr. Trump or his allies may be charged. I want to bring in Ken Delaney, who's joining us now. I think the key question that people have, and I don't think we have an answer to it, Ken, is does this mean Donald Trump could face potentially a fifth indictment, possibly related to some sort of issue with his election fraud lies? And I say that because he's already facing 2 indictments. There's the Fulton County one we just talked about, legal issue. There's the special counsel January 6th investigation. Is he on the hook at all for this Arizona investigation? Does it not involve him? What do we do and don't know?
I think we can safely say that it's certainly possible, Hallie. It's one of the potential outcomes here because Donald Trump, we know from testimony before the January 6th committee, personally intervened in Arizona, pressured the former Speaker of the House there and other officials, as did Rudy Giuliani. This particular investigation, just so folks understand, why is this happening now? Well, the Attorney General in Arizona used to be a Republican. Last year, a Democrat won election to that office, and that Democrat had promised to look into this issue of the fake electors. By the way, everything that happened in Arizona is also under investigation by Jack Smith, the special counsel who's investigating the nationwide scheme by people around Donald Trump and Trump himself to try to overturn the results of the election, including by using fake electors in a number of states. There's a real question about whether that's legal. We don't know yet. We don't know whether anyone's going to bring charges, but that's what's being investigated. And in Arizona in particular, they're looking at, Arizona was ground zero. The Democrat hadn't won Arizona in 24 years. And remember, there was a lot of controversy there. The Republican-controlled state Senate commissioned an audit, which ultimately found that Biden won the state fair and square. But nonetheless, there were a lot of efforts to overturn that election. I think what's significant about this state investigation, along with Georgia, is that even if Jack Smith brings a massive case involving fake electors and other things, and it somehow goes south in the Supreme Court, it's unconstitutional, then there still are these state prosecutions. So it's kind of like there are a number of legal fronts through which prosecutors are going at what they see as a potentially illegal scheme to try to slow down or stop the lawful transfer of power, Hallie.
Ken Delaney live for us in D.C. on that. Ken, thank you. Back here in Washington now, you've got this high-profile fight over the holding up of hundreds of military promotions, with the Republican senator at the center of it all, now responding to criticism from the president himself that his blockade of these promotions is hurting national security. It comes as we've just found out that Senator Tommy Tuberville is also talking with the defense secretary about the military's abortion policy that's at the sort of forefront of this fight. Here's what Senator Tuberville had to say.
Put it on the floor what you want, but if it doesn't, and if it fails, it's got to go back to the original. That's pretty much the same thing I've been saying, but I do not want the policy to say the same if their bill does not pass.
So here's the deal. Senator Tuberville is slowing down any and all defense nominations. He's upset about this DOD policy that lets service members get reimbursed if they have a travel to get an abortion. If they're in a state, based in a state that has restrictions on that and they have to go out of state, for example. What Tuberville is doing seems to be really irritating the person on the right side of your screen. President Biden speaking overseas today.
He's jeopardizing U.S. security by what he's doing. The idea that we're injecting into fundamental foreign policy decisions what, in fact, as a domestic social debate on social issues is bizarre. I don't ever recall that happening, ever.
The Department of Defense says there are at least 265 nominations pending right now because of the holdup. That means 265 military leaders who just cannot get that job, that promotion, essentially. Because of all of this, that number could jump to 650 by the end of the year. It's not just a professional issue with an effect on readiness. You've got less experienced deputies now having to take up some of those vacant positions in the interim. You have junior officers discouraged from staying in the service and going for that promotion, potentially. That's the concern. There is a personal, huge financial and logistical burden for troops' families as well. These nominations, by the way, like if you're like, Hallie, what are you talking about? We don't typically talk about them because they're so routine in Congress. Like normally this is kind of pro forma. I don't want to say a rubber stamp, but typically the Senate Armed Service Committee sends these through without any problems. That is not happening right now. And there is no sign that Senator Tuberville is willing to give in. NBC's Monica Alba has been traveling with the president in Helsinki, Finland. And it feels a little like a game of chicken here, right? Who's going to flinch first? We know that Senator Tuberville has suggested he may be open to meeting with President Biden. Is President Biden open to meeting with him?
He said he was earlier today here in Helsinki, Hallie. He was asked by a reporter whether he would speak to him about this, and President Biden said sure if he would consider changing his, quote, ridiculous position. And then he went on to reiterate that this really is about national security, in his view, something that was echoed by the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, who, again, is dealing with the issue that there isn't a chairman to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. There isn't a commandant of the Marine Corps. I mean, really serious positions in addition to the dozens and dozens of others that you were just alluding to. Here's a little bit more of what Secretary Austin had to say earlier today.
This is a national security issue. It's a readiness issue, and we shouldn't kid ourselves. And I think any member of the Senate Armed Services Committee knows that.
And we did see Senator Tuberville's team point to a tweet from a local reporter in Alabama that seemingly referred to the senator, who, of course, is a former football coach, as coach. But it has since been deleted. But it was a signal to his willingness, saying he was grateful for the cordial and productive conversation and looks forward to continuing dialogue in the near future. But this really has been bubbling for weeks over that change recently to an abortion policy within the Pentagon. And we are now seeing some prominent Republican lawmakers speak out, saying even if you maybe disagree with the policy and at its core that issue, this isn't really the way to go about doing it, holding up these key promotions and confirmations. So we're hearing from Senator Mitt Romney, for instance, and from Senator Lindsey Graham, both of whom are saying, I agree with the policy change he's looking for, but I think this is an ineffective way of accomplishing that purpose. And the point about holding up promotions, we need to end that specifically. So two statements there that really President Biden tried to speak to today, saying, I think there are many in the Republican Party who do disagree with this. And he said it's time for them to speak up and make that really clear. Hallie.
Monica Alba live for us in Finland. Mon, thank you. Coming up here on the show, why the Secret Service is saying case closed on its investigation into cocaine found at the White House, with some Republicans saying basically not so fast. Plus, big questions around millions of dollars worth of gold coins found at a cornfield in Kentucky. What? We're getting into it. The new and maybe unwelcome projection for how much it's going to cost to do back-to-school shopping coming up in just a second. But first, we've got to get to that story that everybody's been talking about here. Cocaine found in the West Wing, with House Republicans tonight not letting that whole White House coke issue die. The Secret Service is ending its investigation into who brought illegal drugs into the building, and it's ending with kind of a shrug, honestly. That's the upshot from these congressional committees that got a briefing on the whole thing, with some conservatives late today saying that this whole issue, this cocaine found in the White House, is exposing serious security flaws at one of the most protected buildings in the world.
What else is coming into the White House they can't tell me about? That even concerns me more now.
This is a failure of this investigation to not perform a drug test on these people.
Somebody should lose their job over this, a lot of people. This thing's a trash can.
One source familiar with the investigation tells NBC News the leading theory right now is that the drugs belong to one of the hundreds of visitors, not staffed, that passed through the building over the weekend. But in a statement, the Secret Service says they will not be able to single out the culprit from all of the people who visited the White House right around the time that the cocaine was found. Let me bring in NBC's Ryan Nobles now. And I just want to reiterate to people, so this is an entrance that people use, like, just candidly, like, I've used it, bringing people on tour there, like, staff uses it, visitors coming into the White House, if you're getting escorted by staff, this is the entrance where you come in. It's like a work entrance, basically, in and out. The Secret Service looked into whose cocaine was found sort of at this cubby right at the entrance. And the answer seems to be, we're not sure, even though they kind of tried to figure it out with, like, all of this testing and investigation, et cetera, right?
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. And I'm told that according to the briefing that the U.S. Secret Service gave to the House Oversight Committee today, that they told the members of Congress that they have identified somewhere in the range of 500 to 600 people that passed through that particular entrance that you're talking about in the 48 hours prior to the cocaine being discovered, and that it's just impossible for them to then go back and test every single one of those individuals, and that they even ran background checks to see if any of them had prior drug convictions, and it turned up nothing. And what we've seen over the timeline of how this all went down is that they initially reviewed the camera footage to see who was coming in and out of that entrance, that they also looked at the entrance logs, the two things combined. They also, as you mentioned, tested for DNA on the bag to see if anything turned up there. They also tested for fingerprints. That proved to be inconclusive, and they even did a chemical analysis. They feel they've done their due diligence to try and figure out who is responsible for this. They've decided they're not going to be able to do that in any sort of definitive way. Obviously, House Republicans feel that they haven't done enough and that they would like the Secret Service to continue on until they're able to come up with who is responsible.
Well, some of these House Republicans want even more than that, as we just heard. They want everybody who goes in to be drug tested, for example, or for multiple people to get fired from their jobs over this. Neither of those seem particularly likely at this point here. How aggressively, based on your reporting here, Ryan, do you get the sense that the GOP will pursue this particular issue?
It's pretty interesting, Hallie. You know, there is the opportunity for them to say or announce that they're going to investigate this on their own. I mean, the Oversight Committee in particular has done that on any number of topics that are related to investigations, not just involving the administration, but the Biden family itself. And so they're not precluded in any way of launching their own investigation. They've stopped short of saying that they're going to do that. Instead, just have been very critical of what the Secret Service has done. You know, you take a look at the weaponization of the federal government, which is one of the committees where they're looking into the conduct of the Department of Justice and the FBI. They obviously have numerous probes into Hunter Biden, the president's son. They're also investigating the situation on the border, also COVID spending and the classified documents controversy. It's not out of the realm of possibility that they could add this to the long list of investigations. The question is, how fruitful would it be? They would have likely less resources at their disposal than these investigatory agencies like the Secret Service and FBI have, so it would be that much more difficult. They would likely have to work with these agencies to come to the bottom of this. My guess, though, Hallie, is that they're going to just use this as another political tool, and the absence of information can actually be beneficial to them to try and make it seem as though there's a problem here, even if this is just one individual that has nothing to do with the Biden family specifically.
Ryan Nobles watching it all from the Hill. Ryan, thank you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, a federal jury has ruled the shooter who killed 11 people at that Pittsburgh synagogue in 2018 is eligible for the death penalty. They still have to hear more evidence before deciding whether to recommend sentencing him to death or to life in prison. The gunman was found guilty on more than 60 charges last month for the deadliest attack on Jewish people in this country. Number 2, Kevin Spacey showing up in London court today, defending himself against allegations of inappropriate touching. He admitted that these encounters happened, but said they were totally consensual. Spacey even accused one of the men of stabbing him in the back. He's facing 12 charges, including sexual assault in London. Number 3. The International Olympics Committee says Russia and Belarus will not be getting a formal invite to compete in France next summer. They've repeatedly condemned Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. Now, catch, athletes from those two countries are still going to be able to compete. They have to compete independently as like sort of independent players here. Everybody else, the other 200 countries, get their invites later on this month. Number 4. I hate to ruin your summer, but back-to-school shopping season will be here before you know it, and this one might break records with predictions that shoppers are going to spend more than $41 billion and that families with kids in elementary through high school will probably spend an average of almost $900 in back-to-school shopping. That is a new high if it happens. Number 5. So somebody in Kentucky, we don't know who, just found a huge... it's a treasure, man. It's a treasure. 700 gold coins from the Civil War buried in a cornfield near Louisville. They all date from between 1840 and 1862. Do you know what they're worth now? Something like $2 million. Talk about mystery. Nobody knows who buried those gold coins there or why or whatever, but we do know that's a lot of money. When we come back, super hot summer temperatures could mean more turbulence when you fly, but AI might help make your next flight smoother. That couldn't come at a better time for some folks. We'll explain. Plus, take a look at this news conference, how it went so wrong. Stay with us. You got to see this new video tonight of a violent fight between a couple of passengers that forced a Frontier Airlines flight to land unexpectedly. Look at this. It shows the women who were traveling together. They're yelling at each other. A flight attendant then, you see the hands waving there. A flight attendant comes in, moves one woman to a different seat. They keep fighting, reportedly even hitting a guy in the head when one of the women went back to the bathroom. The pilot had to emergency land in Denver. Both women were taken off the plane. And that, if you can believe it or not, is not the only sort of disturbing flight in these last 24 hours. An Allegiant Airlines flight hit really intense turbulence on its way to St. Pete, Florida. 2 passengers were hurt, so were a couple of flight attendants. There was somebody on the plane who took this picture of emergency crews responding after the plane landed. Here's what she said about what happened to one of those flight attendants.
We hit a major turbulence, which was petrifying, and she was literally like Matrix, watched her go up in the air and just land straight down.
Ooh, that is so scary. And you know what else is kind of scary? Turbulence on planes is expected to happen more and more because of climate change. Here's why. Really extreme weather can create air travel delays that can cost the airlines a lot of money, too. And by the way, we'll talk about the climate change connection in a second. All of it is why airlines are turning more and more to AI to help micro-forecast weather longer term, which helps them identify potential problems. You know who's all over this story for us? Tom Costello. I know this has been weeks and months in the making. So explain this. Turbulence is expected to be more of an issue. So now AI is maybe going to help?
So AI is helping specifically JetBlue Airlines and Delta Airlines. And here's how. This is super cool. So, you know, airlines rely on their own meteorologists in-house. They also rely on essentially government radar, satellite radar and imagery, I should say, to say what's going to happen, predict the weather. OK, now this company called Tomorrow.io is harnessing the Internet of Things. And it is launching 20 of its own satellites, but then there's more. It's taking in data streams, lots of data streams from the Internet of Things, so that it's reading real time, sensors on planes, drones in the air, even windshield wipers on your car. If your car is connected to the internet and your wipers start going, it triggers, it feeds all of that data to the master computer, and the computer says, aha, therefore we know the rain is going to hit this precise zip code at this precise moment, and even this runway at Logan Airport at this time, and therefore if the lightning's coming, get your crews off of the ramp. If you want to de-ice a plane in the winter, this is the precise moment to do it. It allows them to then predict and schedule around what's coming in.
Have they started using it?
Yes.
Is it working?
Yes. JetBlue says it's already saved them a bunch of money, and it's already helping them to cut back on delays and cancellations over the last year. Delta's now using it. Get this. New England Patriots are using it to micro forecast what the weather's going to be like at Gillette Field. And so they know, okay, well, listen, you know, you might want to plan on moving the cover off of the field at a certain point, right? Or 1st and 10 may not look so good at 12:07 p.m. Who knows? But that's kind of what they're using it for.
Tom Costello, that is super interesting.
It's super cool, right?
Thank you for bringing it to us. As always, we appreciate you. We're going to look for more of that throughout the day. Thank you.
No, on NBC Nightly News.
I didn't see a graphic, so I was just trying to be chill about it, but you blew it up. So there you go. NBC Nightly, there it is. Tom Costello with Lester, 6:30. Thanks, friend.
Okay.
That brings us to tonight's original, related, kind of in a way, with some in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. There's a vote happening here in D.C. next week that could make you a little more confused next time you try to buy a plane ticket. You've got some lawmakers trying to make it easier for airlines to advertise lower prices by hiding those mandatory taxes and fees that you have to pay. Meaning, when you go to search for a flight, the cost that you see might not be what you ultimately have to fork over. Are you surprised to hear that this would not be very popular for travelers? In a new online poll exclusive to NBC News, nearly 90% of the country says, no, we want to see our total all-in price to get a seat, to get a ticket on that plane up front. And tonight in Washington, there is more and more resistance to this plan. Noah Pransky has the story.
Okay, you're booking that next vacation, shopping for airfare, you pick the right flight, and bam! The price jumps on you because the airlines buried the full price that includes taxes and fees. They're not allowed to do that today, but they could be if the airline industry gets their way in Congress.
We don't want to have to do algebra and advanced trigonometry to figure out what it costs.
John Brio with the National Consumer League is sounding the alarm about a new proposal tucked inside a huge House aviation bill. Its purpose? Allow airlines to stop showing you the all-in price of a ticket. Instead, they could advertise the base fare and hide all the mandatory tickets and fees behind a separate link. For the last 11 years, airlines have been saying, thanks, Obama, ever since the former president issued a Department of Transportation rule forcing them to disclose all fees up front in their advertised price. But now they're getting closer to Congress overturning it.
So here's how the experience of buying a plane ticket could change for you. Instead of the way we know it now, where the price you see is the price you pay, airlines would be able to strip out the taxes from the advertised price, artificially lower what you see up front. Now, there are a lot of taxes that we do pay when we see these airline fees. We're talking about a September 11th fee, a passenger facility charge. You go down the list, there's a lot. So it could change the way we buy tickets, and it might start resembling the way we buy a ticket to a concert or an event, where a $216 price advertised really turns into $283 at the end.
It's a very simple reason and explanation for why they're doing it. It makes them money.
Studies have found withholding the total cost of a ticket until the checkout screen leads consumers to spend more.
So as you go through this process, you're hitting sort of these psychological tripwires because we think there's a cost to me stopping this and going back and starting over again.
None of the half dozen or so lawmakers who were instrumental to this provision getting into the bill wanted to talk about it. Maybe because they know it won't be popular. An online poll conducted by YouGov for NBC found that 88% of Democrats and 90% of Republicans favor a law that would actually require airlines to show you that all-in price right up front. I mean, you can't even get 90% of the country to agree on free cookies or puppies.
So how is this all still moving forward? Well, the provision is tucked inside a massive FAA bill that also deals with airport and airplane modernization, drone regulations, pilot training requirements, and air traffic control improvements. The top Democrat to sign off on the legislation so far told the Associated Press the giant bill represents a compromise, and nothing is final until Democrats in the Senate get their say. But thus far, the efforts to change pricing transparency have flown under the radar. An airlines advocacy group wrote us they just want travelers to see how much of their ticket price is going to the government. They say $20 billion worth of fees and taxes last year, adding the government should not be able to hide its mandated fees as the base cost of airfare. However, the companies that sell the airlines tickets, like Expedia, TripAdvisor, and Booking.com, actually side with the consumer and want that all-in price displayed up front.
It's essential to put that information up front, the first place where consumers see the airfare.
Noah Pransky is joining us now. It's super interesting, Noah, because, as we all cover Washington here, you've got Congress making this move, but the Biden administration has been trying to actually crack down on junk fees and make, airlines and hotels, et cetera, more transparent. So it feels weird that this could even potentially go anywhere.
Well, it's not unlike the, Republican-controlled House to maybe stick their thumb in the eye of the president here. But just in the last couple of hours, we've learned that 3 Democrats, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Jan Schakowsky from Illinois, and Chris Deluzio from Pennsylvania, have sent a letter to their colleagues in the House asking for their help to block this measure before it gets to a House vote next week on that FAA bill. Now, obviously, with Republican control of the gavel, Democrats are facing some major headwinds here, and that could mean that it's all up to the Senate. And now 2 Democratic sources in the Senate tell me that they are close to the negotiations and that consumer protections are on their radar, not to overuse a pun. But it's not just price transparency here, but also issues like compensation for flight cancellations and prohibiting airlines from charging families just to sit together. Now, often bills in Congress where the 2 sides don't agree just kind of wither away and die. But this one is different because the FAA bill has to be approved or else the FAA can't operate and we don't have airplanes in the sky. So the question is, as we move forward on negotiations here, does the Senate care more about these consumer protections than the House cares about helping out the airlines? The turbulence, Hallie, is just beginning.
I'll forgive that last pun, Noah, but great reporting and fascinating stuff. Please stay on top of that. I'm sure we'll talk again next week.
Sure thing.
Coming up here on the show, the FDA just approved the first over-the-counter birth control pill, and we've got the lowdown on what you should know if you want to get it. Plus, later, how a news chopper helped rescue kayakers stranded in a river. Look at that. That's in the local. So by now, you've probably heard that the very first over-the-counter birth control pill has been approved by the FDA, meaning you can get it without a prescription. So let's get practical. What is it actually going to mean if you want to buy it? It's expected to be widely available starting early next year. You can get it right off the shelf, right? Pretty big stores, CVS, Walgreens, set to carry it. There's no age restriction on who can buy it. It's still not clear, though, how much it's going to cost or if insurance is going to cover it. That's been a big question. And it comes while there's still a lot of debate over reproductive rights after Roe versus Wade was overturned last year. Dr. Natalie Azar is joining us now. This is a huge deal, and it's a huge deal because of access to birth control.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Hallie. There are roughly 6.1 million pregnancies in this country every year. About 45% of them are unintended. Currently, over-the-counter options for contraception include barrier methods, which are not nearly as effective as hormonal contraception. I think it's just important, too, for our viewers to understand that this is a progesterone-only pill. This is not a combination one with estrogen, so the side effect risk is much, much lower with this. Over 100 countries already have over-the-counter hormonal contraception available, so it's high time that the U.S. has also made this milestone in this decision today, Hallie.
Any legal challenges to this? Are there any incoming already? Do we expect that to be a possibility here?
I don't think so. And, okay. 2 months ago when we were reporting on the FDA's advisory committee recommendation to approve this, there was not a lot. It was kind of crickets from the pro-life groups. And that's because contraception is not the same as abortion. Abortion is important reproductive care for women, but so is contraception. But they really are 2 very different things. So we haven't heard much today. I don't really expect that we will, Hallie. There are 2 very, very different things, but they both involve women's health care, which is obviously the precedent and the thing that really guided this decision.
Dr. Natalie Azar, thank you so much. Great breakdown. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Southern Bureau, a Florida sinkhole that swallowed and killed a man sleeping in his own bed a decade ago has opened back up. It's not even the first time this has happened. It's like, do you see this thing? 20 feet deep. It's now behind a chain link fence. They tried to fill it in with this mixture of water and gravel. Officials say none of the homes nearby, thankfully, are in any danger. Out of our Midwest Bureau, you have to see this video. 4 kayakers in Oklahoma rescued after flipping over and getting pulled down a river. A chopper pilot from our affiliate station spotted the kayakers and then told the rescue crews where to find them. Nobody was hurt. And out of our Northeast Bureau, check this out. A press conference in Maryland gone wrong, or maybe gone hilarious. I feel feel bad for them. They were announcing renovations on a pool in Baltimore, so they're like, hey, everybody, come out to this news conference. They forgot to, I guess, turn the fountains off. So, like, the second before they started. WBAL, I'm so sorry. Maybe it felt good on a hot day. I don't know. That camera gear, though, oof, still to come here on the show. You heard about this TikTok plastic surgeon? She is losing her license. We'll tell you what she was posting. Look at this and what her patients are saying next. A medical board in Ohio tonight is banning a plastic surgeon from ever practicing again in that state after deciding she neglected and hurt patients because she was live streaming their procedures on TikTok. According to the board, Catherine Grawley, known as Dr. Roxy to her hundreds of thousands of followers, that's her, she'd be talking to the camera and answering viewers' questions on live streams in the middle of surgeries on patients. The board pointing to 3 examples of patients who say she botched their surgeries because she wasn't paying enough attention to them. Patients who the board says had severe complications because of that. Another former patient of Grawley's telling our NBC affiliate in Columbus that the decision to suspend the doctor's license gives her some closure, but it doesn't change the damage that's already been done.
It'll never go away because every time we look down and we see a scar, we're going to remember.
NBC News has reached out to Grawley and her attorney for comment, but we haven't heard back. Maura Barrett is joining us now. This is like another level of like a TikTok sort of viral story, viral thing with very real world implications here. This wasn't something that happened suddenly, right? Grawley asked the board for another chance, but she was warned about this multiple times.
Hallie, she was warned about this multiple times over a span of 5 years. She's been posting to social media during that entire time, like you said, answering questions during surgeries, but also posting videos dancing in the operating room while she was doing some of those surgeries, some of those other dancing videos like the one you showed at the top of the segment there. And she pleaded to the board on Wednesday, asking them to not revoke her license, saying that she would never live stream again. The board wasn't having any of it. And she said that she did have permission from patients written out. She said that she had them fill out a consent form. And she said she wanted to post the videos to social media to teach people about plastic surgery. I want to hear some of her pleading in that hearing yesterday.
And sometimes I did silly or fun videos, simply to make people smile in this world, which is often negative and difficult to navigate.
So like you said, real world impacts, even though she was trying to lighten the mood on social media, as she puts it. And she did receive several warnings over the last couple of years. She even had her license temporarily suspended last year. But I want to show you kind of a timeline of what she was facing with these warnings. The board had cited concerns over patient privacy back in October of 2018, also possible ethics violations. And then they also recommended in 2021 that she take these remedial education courses. In addition to getting her license revoked, she also has to pay a fine of $4,500.
One of the things we're looking at here, and I want to pull that back up, is what these patients, like, to be clear, this wasn't like patients felt neglected, not paid enough attention to because they were like upset about it. Things actually happened. Somebody had cramping and abdominal pain. Somebody had a perforated small bowel. Somebody had an infection that required the removal of implants. I mean, it is sort of stunning to see it laid out like this in black and white.
It really is. And Hallie, those 3 formal patient complaints are not the only ones that exist. We found a Facebook group today full of victims. It's more than 2,000 people, many of them who allege that they also had similar issues or complaints towards who they call Dr. Roxy. The board writing in a statement that her continued practice, quote, presents a danger of immediate and serious harm to the public. And that is what they based their decision on today. Now, Dr. Grawley does have the ability to appeal this decision, but it remains to be seen if she'll actually take action on that, Hallie.
Maura Barrett, thank you very much for that story. That's a wrap for this hour. We've got more coverage picking up right now. We've got breaking news tonight as Hollywood's biggest stars vote to officially strike at midnight, completely shutting down the movie and TV business. The cast of one huge summer blockbuster already walking off a red carpet late tonight to go make picket signs. as the head of Disney says now's not the right time for actors to demand more money. We're live in LA with what's at stake and what you should know about the stuff you love to watch. Plus, new disturbing video of a sheriff's deputy appearing to punch a mother in the face as she held her 3-week-old baby, why the FBI is now getting involved. We're also live in Arizona, where it is dangerously hot, the very real risk millions of us are facing, even at night. Plus, in tonight's original, could you get hit with surprise fees when you book your next vacation? Why a new bill in Congress may let airlines hide their total sticker price. And we're going to show you the pretty bananas video of a fight mid-flight, 2 women swinging at each other in the air. That's later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and as we're coming on the air tonight, millions of dollars and thousands of jobs are on the line with something we haven't seen since Spartacus was in theaters. Hollywood actors officially set to strike, alongside the writers who are already on the picket lines, grinding to a halt. TV, movie, script production, all of it already, even in just the last few hours. We're seeing the stars of one of the most anticipated blockbusters of the summer walk off the red carpet at London's premiere of Oppenheimer. But late today, the head of the SAG-AFTRA union, President Fran Drescher, laying out what's at stake.
What happens here is important because what's happening to us is happening across all fields of labor. I am shocked by the way the people that we have been in business with are treating us.
The studios obviously see it differently. The alliance of motion pictures and producers, which represents Disney and Netflix and our parent company, NBC Universal, among others, moments ago, saying in a statement, it is certainly not the outcome we had hoped for, and that this could lead to financial hardship for thousands of people. The head of Disney, in an exclusive interview over on CNBC earlier today, saying this couldn't come at a worse time.
There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. And they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very disruptive.
So they're not being realistic?
No, they're not.
Okay, so from a practical perspective, what does this mean for the shows, the movies, whatever you like to watch? Reality TV, different bucket, right? That is unscripted, so that's not going to have a huge impact at this point. Movies, experts say, really not super affected at this point. They tend to operate on like a 2-3 year out timeline, although promotions could be impacted. You've got some TV shows immediately affected. We have not seen a double strike, meaning both SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild, the actors and the writers, since Ronald Reagan was head of the Actors Union. NBC's Gina Kim is joining us now. So talk us through this. What happens now? What happens next? Midnight is when we might see the picket lines start, maybe in the morning, but that's kind of the time frame.
That's right, Hallie. So I'm outside of the SAG-AFTRA headquarters where all of this came down this afternoon, Los Angeles time. And yeah, I mean, basically this means that tomorrow morning you could see some of your favorite celebrities hitting the picket lines. But SAG-AFTRA is really quick to point out that the majority of its members are what you call journeyman actors. They're not the Matt Damons. They're not the Florence Pughs. They're not the Scarlett Johanssons. They're the people who barely make $26,000 a year. And what they're saying the issues are that they will not back down from are, number one, wages need to keep in touch with inflation and how expensive it is to live around the world these days. Number two, they want more accurate residuals. They want a third party to be able to monitor the streamers and say exactly how many times White Lotus was streamed. And third, one of the most critical factors is that they want language around AI. And we all know what AI is doing. It's basically allowing somebody who's not really there to look like they are there. And these actors want a piece of that pie. And it was a lot of fist pumping in the SAG-AFTRA room as President Fran Drescher said, we are going on strike, but you can also hear so much dismay in the room because, as you said, this shuts down Hollywood. Never mind the actors, never mind reruns and being forced to see reality show on your TVs. We're talking about the thousands of people that work alongside these actors who today lost all of their jobs.
And I want to be clear here, right, because SAG-AFTRA, it is a massive union. You know, people like Meryl Streep and, you know, the guy who plays the extra and the stretcher of CSI, like they're all in the same union here. Some of this is about these big name, big salary actors trying to show solidarity with the people who are having more struggles here, right? When Bob Iger says something like they're not being realistic, Have we seen reaction to that? What's been the reaction to the strike so far in just the last hour or so?
There is no actor that has gone on record to say, well, I don't know about this. Everybody is in solidarity. And right now is the summer blockbuster season, right? Oppenheimer is walking red carpets. Barbie is walking red carpets. And here's what Margot Robbie had to say.
The strike tonight, are you in support of the strike? And then
absolutely.
Would you be prepared to strike as well?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm very much in support of all the unions, and I'm a part of SAG, so I would absolutely stand by that.
In fact, we are hearing that during the Oppenheimer premiere that was happening as the SAG-AFTRA news conference was going on, the actors were like, nope, I'm gone, and they walked off the red carpet. This puts in jeopardy all of the promotions for the fall TV lineup, as well as the Comic-Con that's coming up in just a few weeks.
So that was my question of how does this affect promotion? Because I get that Barbie's already shot, done, it's in the can, it's coming out, but like I can't imagine Margot Robbie's going to walk another red carpet now that the strike has happened, right? Or Ryan Gosling or whatever. Maybe pick your movie. That all stops, right? No more TV shows. I mean, like meaning the talk shows for them. No more late night shows, etc.
Correct. The SAG-AFTRA came out with a guidance that said anything that is promotional in nature cannot happen. So red carpets, Comic-Cons, shows, like they said, you know, if you're getting a Lifetime Achievement Award, that might be fuzzy territory, but if it involves the studios and they are promoting and your likeness and image is going to be used to make money somehow, all of that is coming to an end.
Gina Kim, thank you so much. Live for us there in L.A. outside the SAG-AFTRA headquarters. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Turning now to the unbearable, unforgiving heat for more than 85 million of us. We're talking triple-digit temperatures tonight, breaking dangerous records, even at night. Where in Phoenix, they are bracing for maybe their fourth night above 90 degrees, 90 at night. In Texas, concerns about the power grid. It could break another record for people using electricity to run all those air conditioners. They just set a record 24 hours ago. And yes, it is summer, of course, but this is extraordinary, partly because of how hot it is and how long it is lasting. El Paso and Miami, for example, have never, ever seen this many days in a row above 100. Phoenix just hit 2 weeks today of 110. Vegas is set to hit its hottest temperature ever this weekend, 117 degrees. That is mind-boggling heat. And while the West is baking, you've got the Northeast swamped. Vermont bracing for another round of rain with nowhere for that water to go after devastating flash flooding this week. We have a couple of team coverage members standing by. Bill Cairns with the weather forecast, but I want to get to Marissa Parra, who was out in Phoenix, Arizona first. And Marissa, this is what you're hearing from people in Phoenix, right? That, yes, they get that it's hot, they know it, but it's lasting for a long time, and it started really early, right?
Exactly, yeah. We spoke to people. We've been speaking to a lot of people that live around here, including people who work at the local Salvation Army. And they were saying they're used to hot Phoenix summers. That's what you expect from the South and the Southwest. And people in Miami expect the heat, but this is different. They were saying at the Salvation Army that they're used to having to extend their hours later in the season, later in July. But they said that this is the first time they can remember where they've had to extend and open their doors on weekends, as well as open their doors later, because they also serve as a cooling shelter during times like this. So this is weeks earlier than they're used to, and they said it's also just hotter than they remember. And I mean, I can vouch for that. I'm used to the heat myself. This is a first for me. I mean, we have equipment that's melting around us and malfunctioning, and that's even when we're not even outside for that long. Looking around Phoenix, we've been walking around. I can tell you right now, it almost feels like a ghost town if you're looking for people walking. Yes, there's cars driving around, but in terms of people, I mean, the playground behind me completely empty, except for the occasional people that we've seen trying to either locate a cooling shelter or find a splash pad to cool down in. So I want to take you to a nice moment from a volunteer that we found, someone who had a surplus of water bottles that was looking out for other people who live around here who may not have access to the water, the amount of water that we need. Take a listen.
It's extremely hot out. There's so many people that live on the streets or elderly, and just really felt that we could give back.
So something else that I thought was really striking, Hallie, is there was a study that was done by the Environmental Science and Technology. This was released in May of 2023, so just a couple of months ago. But if you look at this study, what they looked at was what would happen if there was a simultaneous blackout during a heat wave. They looked at several different cities around the country, but what they found in Phoenix in particular is startling, and that is exactly why this is gaining traction right now, months later, because what they found was that a blackout with a heat wave would more than double the rate of heat-related deaths and require medical attention for more than 50% of the urban population in Phoenix. And a lot of that is because of just how much this city relies on air conditioning and also just how brutal this heat wave is here as this is happening. So the good news is that the electrical grid is quite strong here, Hallie, but this is kind of a wake-up call because people are looking at, how strong is it and how much can it sustain these kind of brutal temperatures for this long, especially when we're seeing that these heat waves and these seasons are lasting for longer with no end in sight, and especially even this weekend. I mean, we're talking about 111 degrees right now, Hallie. It's only expected to get hotter this weekend.
Which is just incredible to think about. Marissa Parra, thank you so much. Let me bring in Bill Cairns now. So, Bill, you've been tracking heat. You were also tracking the possibility, incredibly, of more rain in Vermont, right, after they are just at capacity, saturated because of that devastating flash flooding this week.
Yeah, nervous times for everyone that's sitting there that, saw the rivers that flooded, and now they're wondering what's going to happen to that reservoir that's pretty much full and at capacity as thunderstorms move in. So our severe thunderstorm watch, even though tornado warning just issued here, we'll take a closer look at that in a second. Severe thunderstorm watch goes out until 8 p.m., and these storms are really fired up now in the Hudson Valley, and they're sweeping through the Capital District. They're now entering into Vermont, the areas that were hit the hardest by that flooding. So let's go in a little bit closer here, and you can see this tornado warning near Orwell. This is going across, it looks like the northern portions here of Lake George. And so, yeah, pretty nasty looking thunderstorm with rotation. No indications that tornadoes on the ground, but we'll keep an eye on that, of course. So in Mount Pelier, the area that had the horrific flooding, and Londonderry, those two areas are located up here off of 89. So those thunderstorms will be arriving there shortly. So we don't have any flash flood warnings yet, but those thunderstorms are just now heading over the areas that are really soggy and saturated. And later on tonight and even tomorrow, all the way through Providence and all the way through the northern half of Connecticut, a good chunk of Massachusetts also in a flash flood watch because it's just so humid. And when these thunderstorms roll through, they're going to dump a lot of water in a short period of time. Locally, up to 4 inches is possible. And it's hard to pinpoint who exactly is going to get that with summertime thunderstorms. But Long Island could be a mess tomorrow with a lot of heavy rain, indications of 2 to 3 inches of rain. And that's where we're talking about travel impacts also. So, yeah, Hallie, we're hoping we're not going to see anything like what we saw 3 days ago. But isolated cases like that are possible.
Bill Cairns, a lot to watch for over the next couple of days. You said it, nervous times indeed, for sure. Thanks. To L.A. now, where tonight police are bracing for protests after releasing some disturbing body camera footage showing a sheriff punching a woman in the face during an arrest as she held her 3-week-old baby. We're going to warn you now that what you see, what you hear, is going to be pretty hard to watch.
You're breaking his leg, bro! Hey, get this over
So that you know what you're seeing here, the top part of the video, the piece highlighted here, is where this sheriff's deputy threw 2 punches as the woman screams. She says, "You're breaking his legs." She begs not to be tased. You then see deputies trying to take a baby out of the arms of a different woman who was in the car. Listen.
Please, let me hold on to it for 2 more minutes, please. Please, 2 more minutes. No. 2 more minutes.
You can hear the baby crying. You can hear the mom yelling. The LA Sheriff's Department, we should note, blurred and edited these videos before we got them. They are getting the FBI's attention now, with the spokesperson there telling our team they're going to review this to see if these deputies violated federal law. Steve Patterson is joining us now from Los Angeles. And Steve, this investigation has been going on for a full year. Talk us through the timeline, how this happened, the reaction.
Yeah, the timing is a little bit tricky. This happened almost exactly a year ago, July 14th, 2022. This was a traffic stop. That car where the women were pulled out of did not have its lights on. The deputies go to the car. They smell a strong smell of alcohol. The driver is pulled over and arrested for suspected driving under the influence, driving with a suspended license. The women in back, there are 4 of them with 3 infants. None of those infants have a car seat. That's illegal in the state of California. That's dangerous for the kids. So the deputies did have a responsibility to pull that car over. But what you see there, I think, is under investigation for a reason. The timing is weird for a few reasons. One, the sheriff now, the person who gave us the footage, put this out to the press and the public, was not the sheriff back then. There was and has been an internal investigation. We don't know for how long, but before this was released. But he didn't know about this, according to the sheriff, until maybe a few days ago. And as soon, he says, as he learned what had happened and then saw what had happened, he released this to the public. Here's what he said, how he felt about learning about all of this. Listen to, first of all, you can see on screen what we know. Now this has been referred to the DA's office for a possible criminal investigation. But I want you to listen to the sheriff. Listen to this.
I found the punching of the woman in these circumstances completely unacceptable.
You hear that in his voice, also saying that he would like to continue to investigate and release more information, but he simply can't. And so he has now, as you mentioned, referred this to the FBI and the district attorney's office, who may file criminal charges. Hallie?
Do we know if the deputies that we saw in that video are still on the job, or is that still an open question?
We don't know. We know that two of the deputies involved in the incident, and I would assume one of them being the striking deputy who actually hit the woman, was pulled off the street. Now, for how long, for why, for if that follows any more punitive charges or anything related to the possibility of them being permanently removed off the street, we simply don't have that information. The sheriff's department doesn't have to release that information, and we would only be able to probably get that either with a civil suit or now with this criminal investigation with the DA's office. But that could be, it could take some time. And I think it's the reason why we're hearing about the possibility of unrest, because not only is it disturbing to see that, but it's also very frustrating not to get any answers in this case, Hallie. We just have to wait.
Well, that's the thing, and I know you'll be on top of it. Steve Patterson, thanks. We've also got some breaking news coming into us tonight, I should say. This is out of Seattle. Videos that have been newly obtained by our affiliate there showing some disturbing images from the city's police department. We're going to show them to you here. Video from a couple years ago. It's the break room of a local precinct. Now, as the officers are leaving the room, you can see what appears to be a fake tombstone. It's of a 19-year-old who had been shot and killed by Seattle police in 2017. There is a second video that shows a Trump 2020 flag on display. You can see it back there as officers are getting ready to respond to a call. Both videos coming as a result of a lawsuit on a totally separate topic. Now, the lawyers behind this suit say they wanted to release the video to give an honest glimpse, they say, into the Seattle Police Department's hidden political expressions and internal culture. I'm quoting here, specifically calling the tombstone disgusting. A lawyer for the family of Demarius Butts, the 19-year-old who was killed, tells our Seattle affiliate that the video is a demonstration of deep disrespect for the teen's life. The Seattle Police Department has not returned our request for comment, but they did tell our affiliate that while they don't know the origin or the intent of those materials, there's no question that they're inappropriate. The city's mayor telling the Seattle Times it is an alarming and unfortunate setback. We're going to bring you more on the story as we learn more. We've also got some news just breaking into us involving the Capitol Hill and the White House, with the House voting to overturn a Pentagon policy that lets service members get reimbursed to travel to get an abortion. This move answers a big demand from the person you see on screen here, Alabama Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville, who's been holding up hundreds of military promotions and getting a lot of flack from the president in the process. Listen to what he said about the senator today.
He's jeopardizing U.S. security by what he's doing. The idea that we're injecting into fundamental foreign policy decisions what, in fact, as a domestic social debate on social issues is bizarre. I don't ever recall that happening, ever.
The Defense Department says there are at least 250 nominations being held up by this whole thing. That number could jump to 650 by the end of the year, and that could be felt throughout the entire military. With an effect on readiness, you would have less experienced deputies having to take up some of these open positions in the short term. Potentially junior officers discouraged from staying in the service and going for a promotion. And then huge financial and logistical burdens for troops' families who are waiting to find out what happens to them next. NBC's Monica Alba is traveling with the president in Helsinki, Finland. And we have this late-breaking news tonight, Mon, from Capitol Hill. And word from our Capitol Hill and White House teams now tonight, Sahil Kapoor and our colleague Kristen Welker, that the Biden White House is preparing to sort of ramp up, I think, some of the messaging on what Tommy Tuberville is doing. They say extremely concerned about this. Tuberville, to his point, says he's going to stand firm until he sees action on this policy that he doesn't like. Who blinks first in what is a game of political and military chicken?
This has been bubbling for weeks and months now, Hallie, and the White House has been closely following it. And they were waiting to see whether potentially Senator Tuberville was going to back off this position or adjust in any way. And then all of this really was ratcheted up today when a reporter asked President Biden, as you played there in the intro, and he really made the case that this isn't just about politics. This is about national security and some of these key positions. So I think you can expect the White House to continue with that line of messaging, according to a memo obtained by our colleagues Sahil and Kristen, who you just mentioned there, that spells out why the White House is so worried about this and specifically raises the point that they would like fellow Republicans of Senator Tuberville to speak up and speak out on this. And we've seen a little bit of that start with Senator Mitt Romney and Senator Lindsey Graham tweeting that even if they agree with the Alabama senator on the policy issue here and what they would like to see change, they don't think that this is the right way to go about it, to hold up these key nominations and promotions for key positions that we do know about, like the Commandant of the Marine Corps or, of course, the Chairman to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but then for dozens others that you wouldn't maybe recognize the name of, but that are so key to the military readiness and the way that they are structured throughout the entire country. And as we're here in Helsinki, Finland, where the president just wrapped up a week of really important geopolitical conversations, and the U.S. military is supplying controversial cluster bombs to Ukraine, for instance, there are a lot of conversations right now about how important it is to have the U.S. military at the peak performance point that the president, that the Secretary of Defense, and everybody on down wants them to be at. So I do think you can expect this fight to continue to ramp up. There will be a political messaging fight. But overall, at the end of the day, top White House officials tell us they're going to make this case that it's not just about that. It's not just about 2024. It's not just about elections. It really comes down to being about key national security. Hallie.
Monica Alba live for us there in Helsinki. Monica, thank you for staying up late for us, and I appreciate it. To some breaking news now. Federal prosecutors looking at former President Trump's push to overturn the 2020 election have apparently questioned multiple witnesses in the last few weeks, including his son-in-law and former top advisor, Jared Kushner, according to the New York Times. 4 people briefed on the matter tell the Times that Kushner and others were asked about whether the former president privately acknowledged that he lost the 2020 election in the days after it happened. That answer could give prosecutors a sense of the former president's intent when he spread those election fraud lies, and maybe give them some evidence in the case they could bring against him by essentially saying that his push was knowingly based on a lie. More to come on that front as well. More to come in the show, too. Coming up, some new details tonight about that hit and run just steps from the White House. We brought it to you as breaking news 24 hours ago. What police are looking for right now. Plus, remember Richard Simmons? I mean, he is iconic, but he's also been out of the public eye for years. A super rare update from him in the 5 Things. A familiar and famous face is returning to next year's Olympics in Paris after a bit of a break. We'll tell you who in our 5 Things. But first, you've got the FTC tonight making a move the White House and Congress still have not, opening a federal investigation into the maker of ChatGPT, a company called OpenAI, looking into a bunch of things that the federal regulator is worried about, in particular if the product's violating U.S. consumer protection laws. AI is a big hot-button thing in D.C. right now, with everybody from the Biden administration to Republicans in Congress saying they're watching this technology and its impact very closely. We just saw this week Vice President Harris sitting down with labor leaders and others to talk about how AI could threaten the way that people make a living. Back in May, the head of OpenAI, Sam Altman, testified in front of a Senate committee. But a federal investigation now, that is new territory, meaning this FTC investigation is the first step in what could be a much bigger crackdown on AI. Elsewhere in Washington, House Republicans tonight not letting the whole White House cocaine thing go quietly into the night as the Secret Service is ending its investigation into who brought illegal drugs into the building. The conclusion? Shrug. Mystery still. Congressional committee has got a briefing on this whole thing with some conservatives late today saying that this drug incident exposes serious security flaws at one of the most protected buildings in the world.
What else is coming into the White House they can't tell me about? That even concerns me more now.
This is a failure of this investigation to not perform a drug test on these people.
Somebody should lose their job over this. A lot of people. This thing's a trash can.
One source familiar with the Secret Service investigation tells NBC News that the leading theory is that the drugs belonged to one of the hundreds of visitors, not staff, that passed through the building over the weekend. In a statement, the Secret Service says they're not going to be able to single out the culprit from the hundreds of people who were in that particular location right around the time when this little baggie of cocaine was found. I want to bring in NBC's Ryan Nobles. Let me start with the investigation itself, because I think there was some anticipation. Okay, the Secret Service is going to investigate. We're going to find out. There's going to be a conclusion. The conclusion is like, we can't say for sure, which may not be satisfying for everybody here, even though the Secret Service did a lot to try to figure this out, they say.
Yeah, they did, Hallie. They went through a pretty extensive investigation, probably more than one would do if a baggie of cocaine was found like this in a restaurant or something other than that. You know, this is obviously the White House, so the security is at a higher level. They did DNA testing on the material. They also did a fingerprint examination. They went through all the video logs that are of the cameras that are pointed at various parts around the White House and the West Wing where this particular baggie was found. They even went through the visitor logs as well. And basically what I'm told in this private briefing that took place today with the Secret Service and members of the House Oversight Committee is that the Secret Service admitted that they believe that there was anywhere between 500 to 600 people who passed through that particular entrance in the 48 hours before the baggie was found, and that it's just too many people to go through to try and determine exactly who is responsible. They can't question each and every one of these people. Now, they did do a kind of background check on many of them to see if there were any prior drug charges that popped up amongst this group, and they were unable to find anything related to that. So essentially what the Secret Service is saying is that we've done all we can in this situation, and we're just not going to be able to figure out specifically who the person is that's responsible.
The question here is, if that's where things stand as it relates to the investigation, is that going to satisfy House Republicans? The answer is clearly no. You heard, some of them talk about everything from drug testing everybody who goes into the White House to firing a whole bunch of people over this. Politically unlikely, I think it's fair to say, but based on your reporting, do you think they'll open like a separate, I mean, they could sure open a separate investigation into this whole thing. Will they? Will this kind of go away? What's your sense?
Well, there is a precedent here, right, Hallie? We've seen Republicans, particularly in the House of Representatives, launch a wide range of investigations, of which are not specifically in their purview, but they're using as part of their oversight responsibility. We've seen investigations into the situation at the border. We've seen investigations into the COVID origins, investigations into Hunter Biden, the president's son. Now, all of these are not specifically their responsibility, but congressional's oversight responsibility is pretty broad. They can essentially investigate whatever they want. In this instance, and we've pressed many of these members of the Oversight Committee, Judiciary Committee, Homeland Security, do you want to launch your own investigation? And they've stopped short of that. Instead, they've just criticized the Secret Service investigation, said they haven't been transparent enough in the questions that they've answered. So it seems as though they're not willing to take that step. The bigger question is, do they just use this as a political tool, that the kind of absence of information here actually benefits them more than actually getting to the bottom of it? They can just point and criticize the Biden administration, Secret Service, and others, saying that they're just not doing enough as it relates to this investigation. And who possibly could be responsible for this? Fill in the blank. It's up to you. That actually may be more politically beneficial to them. So this is not necessarily an issue that's going to go away, Hallie. It's going to be one of these things where they just add it to the pile of criticisms that they have for the Biden administration, and just going to be another thing that the Biden administration is going to have to answer for in the days and weeks to come.
You are on the steps outside the Capitol because I assume it is a flyout day and you're trying to catch members as they leave. Anybody interesting you've caught up with yet or no?
Yeah, we actually talked to quite a few of them as they left. They had a series of votes this afternoon on the defense authorization bill, and hard-right Republicans have added a number of amendments to that bill that are culture war issues. It's likely going to mean that if it passes later tonight or maybe tomorrow, Hallie, that it's only going to be passed with Republican votes and make it a much more difficult process once it gets to the Senate side. So that's what we're tracking tonight.
We touched a bit of that just a minute ago, but Ryan Nobles, let's pre-book you for tomorrow because I'm sure we will talk again. Ryan, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I'll be here. I'll be here.
Sounds good.
All right.
Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Park Police here in D.C. have identified the person who was killed in that hit and run. We brought you his breaking news 24 hours ago. They say 75-year-old Bing Wong died. 2 others were hurt, including a 13-year-old girl. Officials are still looking for the driver. They say this person tried to get away from officers when they tried pulling him over just a couple of blocks south of the White House. Number 2, a rep for fitness icon Richard Simmons giving a rare update to mark his birthday, telling E! News that Simmons wants his fans to know he's doing well and sends his best wishes to them. Simmons just turned 75. Remember, there have been some of his fans who've been worried about his well-being. He hasn't been seen in public in years. Number 3, the FDA has just approved the country's first ever over-the-counter birth control pill today. You've probably heard of it by now. It's called O-Pill. Women and girls will be able to buy it early next year. It'll be available without a prescription at pharmacies. Still not clear how much it'll cost. Number 4, it is, I hate to be the bearer of bad news because it feels like you just started your summer, but back to school shopping season will be upon us soon enough. And this one might be one for the record books. The National Retail Federation predicts that families with kids in elementary to high school will spend something like $900 on average. That would be a new high. Number 5, a year out from the Paris Olympics, a huge announcement now from Gabby Douglas, the gymnastics gold medalist, 3-time champion, actually. She says she's planning a comeback to the Olympics after, in her words, a lot of journaling, reflecting, and soul-searching. In 2017, Douglas confirmed she was one of many victims of longtime USA Gymnastics Dr. Larry Nassar. She is going to come back, and you are going to bet that the entire country will be rooting for Miss Gabby Douglas, including us right here on NBC News Now. When we come back, officials say turbulence on planes could be about to get way more common, but a couple of airlines have developed an innovative way to try to fight it. We'll explain the AI revolution of it all coming up. Plus, why Israel is trying to get rid of this popular one-of-a-kind spot after something like 50 years. So you got to look at some of this new video tonight of a fight between a couple of passengers that forced an emergency landing for a Frontier Airlines flight. Look at this. It shows the women who were traveling together yelling at each other. You see the hands flying. A flight attendant comes in, moves one woman to a different seat. They keep fighting, reportedly even hitting a guy in the head when one of the women went back to the bathroom. The pilot had to emergency land in Denver, and both women were taken off the plane. That's not even the only sort of strange flight that happened in these last 24 hours. An Allegiant Airlines flight hit very intense turbulence on its way to St. Pete, Florida. 2 passengers were hurt. So were a couple of flight attendants. Somebody on the plane took this picture of emergency crews responding after the plane landed. And the person who took this picture talked to us about what happened to one of those flight attendants.
We hit a major turbulence, which was petrifying, and she was literally like Matrix, watched her go up in the air and just land straight down.
So scary. And you know what else is kind of scary? Turbulence on planes is expected to happen more and more because of climate change. Extreme weather can create air travel delays. So to help combat that, or at least to help understand that a little bit better, airlines are turning more and more to something you may not expect, AI. To micro forecast, they call it, weather longer term. So like micro forecasts here to help them identify potential problems. Tom Costello is joining us now. I know this has been weeks and months in the making. So explain this. Turbulence is expected to be more of an issue. So now AI is maybe going to help?
So AI is helping specifically JetBlue Airlines and Delta Airlines. And here's how. This is super cool. So, you know, airlines rely on their own meteorologists in-house. They also rely on essentially government radar, satellite radar and imagery, I should say, to say what's going to happen, predict the weather. OK, now this company called Tomorrow.io is harnessing the Internet of Things. things. And it is launching 20 of its own satellites, but then there's more. It's taking in data streams, lots of data streams from the Internet of Things, so that it's reading real time, sensors on planes, drones in the air, even windshield wipers on your car. If your car is connected to the Internet and your wipers start going, it triggers, it feeds all of that data to the master computer, and the computer says, aha, therefore we know the rain is going to hit this precise zip code at this precise moment, and even this runway at Logan Airport at this time. And therefore, if the lightning is coming, get your crews off of the ramp. If you want to de-ice a plane in the winter, this is the precise moment to do it. It allows them to then predict and schedule around what's coming in.
Have they started using it?
Yes.
Is it working?
Yes. JetBlue says it's already saved them a bunch of money, and it's already helping them to cut back on delays and cancellations over the last year. Delta's now using it. Get this. New England Patriots are using it to micro forecast what the weather's going to be like at Gillette Field. And so they know, okay, well, listen, you might want to plan on moving the cover off of the field at a certain point, right? Or 1st and 10 may not look so good at 12:07 p.m. Who knows? But that's kind of what they're using it for.
Tom Costello, that is super interesting.
It's super cool, right?
Thank you for bringing it to us. As always, we appreciate you. That brings us to tonight's original now, with a story that we've been watching, an in-depth reporting on a topic we know you care about. Tonight it is more on this plane stuff, because there's a bill coming up in Washington next week that could make it a little more confusing next time you try to buy a plane ticket. Some lawmakers want to make it easier for airlines to advertise lower prices by hiding the mandatory taxes and fees that you have to pay from the cost that you're shown initially. So like when you go to search some website and you see the price for your ticket, you got to add more dollars to it, potentially, if this thing goes through, and airlines can advertise that cheaper price, even though it's not the full ticket. Is it a surprise to you that this is not very popular? A new online poll exclusive to NBC shows nearly 90% of people say no, they want to see the whole shebang. They want to see whatever they need to pay for that seat up front right away, transparently. So tonight, there is growing resistance at the Capitol to this plan. Noah Pransky has more.
Okay, you're booking that next vacation, shopping for airfare, you pick the right flight, and bam! The price jumps on you because the airlines buried the full price that includes taxes and fees. They're not allowed to do that today, but they could be if the airline industry gets their way in Congress.
We don't want to have to do algebra and advanced trigonometry to figure out what it costs.
John Brio with the National Consumer League is sounding the alarm about a new proposal tucked inside a huge House aviation bill. Its purpose? Allow airlines to stop showing you the all-in price of a ticket. Instead, they could advertise the base fare and hide all the mandatory tickets and fees behind a separate link. For the last 11 years, airlines have been saying, thanks, Obama, ever since the former president issued a Department of Transportation rule forcing them to disclose all fees up front in their advertised price. But now they're getting closer to Congress overturning it.
So here's how the experience of buying a plane ticket could change for you. Instead of the way we know it now, where the price you see is the price you pay, airlines would be able to strip out the taxes from the advertised price, artificially lower what you see up front. Now, there are a lot of taxes that we do pay when we see these airline fees. We're talking about a September 11th fee, a passenger facility charge. You go down the list, there's a lot. So it could change the way we buy tickets, and it might start resembling the way we buy a ticket to a concert or an event, where a $216 price advertised really turns into $283 at the end.
It's a very simple reason and explanation for why they're doing it. It makes them money.
Studies have found withholding the total cost of a ticket until the checkout screen leads consumers to spend more.
So as you go through this process, you're hitting sort of these psychological tripwires because we think there's a cost to me stopping this and going back and starting over again.
None of the half dozen or so lawmakers who were instrumental to this provision getting into the bill wanted to talk about it. Maybe because they know it won't be popular. An online poll conducted by YouGov for NBC found that 88% of Democrats and 90% of Republicans favor a law that would actually require airlines to show you that all-in price right up front. I mean, you can't even get 90% of the country to agree on free cookies or puppies.
So how is this all still moving forward? Well, the provision is tucked inside a massive FAA bill that also deals with airport and airplane modernization, drone regulations, pilot training requirements, and air traffic control improvements. The top Democrat to sign off on the legislation so far told the Associated Press the giant bill represents a compromise, and nothing is final until Democrats in the Senate get their say. But thus far, the efforts to change pricing transparency have flown under the radar. An airlines advocacy group wrote us they just want travelers to see how much of their ticket price is going to the government. They say $20 billion worth of fees and taxes last year, adding the government should not be able to hide its mandated fees as the base cost of airfare. However, the companies that sell the airlines tickets, like Expedia, TripAdvisor, and Booking.com, actually side with the consumer and want that all-in price displayed up front.
It's essential to put that information up front, the first place where consumers see the airfare.
Noah Pransky is joining us now. It's super interesting, Noah, because, you know, as we all cover Washington here, you've got Congress making this move, but the Biden administration has been trying to actually crack down on junk fees and make, you know, airlines and hotels, et cetera, more transparent. So it feels weird that this could even potentially go anywhere.
Well, it's not unlike the, Republican-controlled House to maybe stick their thumb in the eye of the president here. But just in the last couple of hours, we've learned that 3 Democrats, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Jan Schakowsky from Illinois, and Chris Deluzio from Pennsylvania, have sent a letter to their colleagues in the House asking for their help to block this measure before it gets to a House vote next week on that FAA bill. Now, obviously, with Republican control of the gavel, Democrats are facing some major headwinds here, and that could mean that it's all up to the Senate. And now 2 Democratic sources in the Senate tell me that they are close to the negotiations and that consumer protections are on their radar, not to overuse a pun. But it's not just price transparency here, but also issues like compensation for flight cancellations and prohibiting airlines from charging families just to sit together. Now, often bills in Congress where the two sides don't agree just kind of wither away and die. But this one is different because the FAA bill has to be approved or else the FAA can't operate and we don't have airplanes in the sky. So the question is, as we move forward on negotiations here, does the Senate care more about these consumer protections than the House cares about helping out the airlines? The turbulence, Hallie, is just beginning.
I'll forgive that last pun, Noah, but great reporting and fascinating stuff. Please stay on top of that. I'm sure we'll talk again next week.
Sure thing.
Coming up here, some breaking news just coming into us from the World Health Organization, where they're naming a popular sweetener a potential cancer risk. What you should know, plus why thousands of people have been forced to evacuate in India. You're seeing it. That's in the Global. So some breaking news to get to out of the World Health Organization, which just in the last couple of minutes says aspartame, this popular sweetener used in, for example, soda, is a possible cancer risk. The report that we're bringing you first here on this show says there is limited evidence that aspartame could have links to liver cancer. Keep in mind, if you're not from, it's in a lot of stuff. It's in diet soda, ice cream, gum, cereal, toothpaste, even some medications, for example. You can't miss it. Dr. Natalie Azar is here to break this down. So can we just level set plain English here? It feels like the upshot from this report is that it is confusing because on the one hand, they're labeling aspartame, which is in so much stuff, as a possible carcinogen. On the other hand, they're emphasizing over and over and over again that there's only limited evidence to support that it's actually connected to cancer. What are we supposed to take away from this?
Okay, well, let's break this down and think about what they said and what they didn't say. They definitely did not say that aspartame definitely causes cancer and that everyone needs to stop consuming it today. What they did say, based on 2 different reports, and they have 2 different agencies in the World Health Organization. One is the Cancer Research Agency, and the other one is a committee that gives guidance on consumption of food additives. And what the first agency said is that now, based on limited evidence, that they said that aspartame could possibly be associated with cancer. That doesn't mean it definitely does, and it doesn't mean that it probably does. It actually got 3rd on the way down, so not that high of a rating. And then the other agency, which says this is how much we think is safe to consume, they didn't change the recommendation from what it previously was, which is roughly 40 milligrams per kilogram, and I'll put that in our metrics, which is you take an average 154-pound person, they would need to drink drink 9 to 14 or over 9 to 14 cans of soda a day or the equivalent of other aspartame-containing foods to exceed that amount. So for most of us at home, that's like, whew, I can continue to have a Diet Coke every day and that kind of thing. It really is about, yes, we need more research, and people should be mindful of their consumption, but we do not need to panic, Hallie.
Is it helpful to have is it helpful or more confusing for the FDA now to come out just in the last couple of minutes at the same time as this WHO statement, straight up like disputing what they're saying aspartame has actually already had a lot of studies about its safety, that their scientists are not concerned. The idea of what is and what is not a potential carcinogen is huge. It includes everything from like diesel fuel to aloe vera and pickled vegetables. You know what I mean?
Right. So the FDA's upper limit is actually higher than the World Health Organization's. It's 50 milligrams per kilogram. And I think essentially, Hallie, they're saying the same thing in that, you know, there's a signal there. The signal was actually with an association potentially with liver cancer. You know, I think everyone agrees that more research should always be done on this. But I think their bottom line is people don't need to stop consuming it. People should be mindful of how much they are consuming, just like anything, and to wait for more information. But I think you can all enjoy your diet soda tonight and tomorrow and for the near future and not lose sleep over this.
Dr. Natalie Azar, news you can use for sure. Thank you. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day. And because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our foreign desk has done it for you. Here's some of what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of India, record monsoons have killed more than 100 people over the past couple weeks. These are just some of the scenes. You saw those cars and trucks basically submerged, people walking in water up to their knees. Officials say something like 170 houses have collapsed. Another 600 houses have been damaged because of all the rain and because of landslides. Making matters worse, there's forecasts of more rain in the next few days, too. Out of Bolivia, officials torched drug labs hidden in the Amazon jungle. Officials call it a multi-million-dollar loss for traffickers. The government says it destroyed 7 cocaine crystallization facilities by, as you just saw, burning them down. And that of Israel, the government's trying to evict a man from his extravagant cave home after more than 50 years. Officials say what you're seeing, this building structure, it is illegal and it threatens the coastline of Israel. The alleged squatter carved out the cave himself. It's filled with stuff that's been recycled. It's covered in these mosaics. The eviction is on hold until later this month to give him some time to appeal. Still to come, this plastic surgeon who's super popular on TikTok just got her medical license revoked. And you may not believe what officials say about how she put her patients in danger. That's next. A medical board in Ohio is banning a plastic surgeon from ever practicing again in that state after deciding she neglected and hurt patients because she was live streaming their procedures on TikTok. According to the board, the doctor known as Dr. Roxy, real name Catherine Grawley, with hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok, she'd be doing like talking to the camera, doing dances, answering viewers' questions on live streams right in the middle of patients' surgeries. The board pointing to 3 examples of patients who say she botched their surgeries because she wasn't giving them her full attention. They have the actual scars to show, they say. Patients who the board says had severe complications because of all this. There's another former patient of Grawley's who tells our NBC News affiliate in Columbus that the decision to suspend Grawley's license gives her closure, but doesn't change the damage that's already been done.
It'll never go away because every time we look down and we see a scar, we're going to remember.
NBC News has reached out to Grawley and her attorney for comment. We have not yet heard back. Maura Barrett is joining us now. There were physical impacts to people. I mean, these patients, this wasn't just she wasn't paying enough attention to them. There were like actual complications of these patients listed here.
Right, and the medical board said, Hallie, basically, if you're paying attention to a camera that you're going to post on social media, you're not paying attention to the patients. And anytime someone goes into surgery, whether it's cosmetic or something else, that's a very anxiety-provoking time, right? And you only want good outcomes. And so this is something that obviously, understandably, a lot of patients are upset by. But I want to show you some of those real physical impacts that patients are potentially still living with. We have a few formal complaints that were entered into. That's what the board was considering in their decision. One of the patients was found to have a perforated small bowel and necrotizing soft tissue infection. Another had to call the emergency line because of cramping and severe abdominal pain. And another was found to have a developed infection, which then required removal of bilateral implants. Obviously, there's always fine print with surgeries, but we have seen complaint over complaint. There's a Facebook group with more than 2,000 members, many of them alleging harm from Dr. Grawi as well. And so this is something that she said and pointed out to the board, that she had patient consent. She had had them sign forms to say it was okay to live stream their surgeries, but obviously that they weren't consenting to then have these physical impacts, Hallie.
Grawi asked the board for another chance, but she had been warned about this multiple times before, right?
Multiple times over several years, some very intense punishments already. Back in 2018, there were cited concerns over patient privacy and other ethics violations. She was also ordered in 2021 to take remedial education courses. And then even as recently as last year, she had her license temporarily suspended. And so this was something that she was aware of, that she had been cited for, that she had said that she would get better at. She even pleaded with the medical board on Wednesday, saying that she wouldn't live stream any more surgeries, but the medical board wasn't having it. They also fined her $4,500, and her practice is now closed. But obviously, those real-world physical impacts with who knows how many patients still exist, Hallie.
Maura Barra, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on that one. Appreciate it. That does it for us for this hour and for the one before it. If you missed any of it, catch up on the latest reporting and newest interviews from our team. You can find us anytime in so many places. You see them there: Peacock, Hulu, YouTube, and more. Just search Hallie Jackson Now. Good to be with you as always. We'll have more coverage here on NBC News Now. I will see you all on Monday. You will be in good hands until then. Top Story picks up our coverage right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.